Okay. Good evening to you all. Firstly, my apologies for being unable to be present in person. Unfortunately, my visa processing has got unduly delayed, despite the fact that I have never been refused a US visa in the past, and I've been traveling to the US for over 20 years. Um, However, it's, today we have taken the opportunity of me not being able to be in the US to actually visit the Ampara district, Kandikuricharu. This is the area where the Mavir Thuiramillam of Ampare is. And as you can see in the background, the villagers have come here today to carry out a Siramadhanam so that they prepare the grounds, these hallowed grounds, for the commemoration of the Mavir week. Now, this process has been going on for the last 3 years. Before that, there was extreme resistance from the state, where the public were harassed. There were illegal arrests, then formal court arrests, and so on and so forth. But this year, the government has announced that commemorations are permitted. And once they announced to the world that the commemorations are permitted, on the ground, the reality is that the forest department has decided to lay stones demarcating quote-unquote forest areas, bifurcating the Mavira Thuiramillam, so that in future the commemorations become practically impossible to do. So this is what is happening. You have a face that is being shown to the international community so that the government ticks the box as far as the checklist of good governance, rule of law, adhering to fundamental rights, human rights, international standards, what have you. But on the ground, the complete opposite is happening. Now, this is just one instance. You have the same happening in Mullaitivu, which you've all heard, in Kurundur Mele, where it was an ancient Saiva worship site, and there was an archaeological finding which was gazetted way back in 1933. There was no mention in that finding when the British gazetted the area as an archaeological area that it was a Buddhist site, but without any verification that can be satisfactory to the Tamils. The ancient Buddhist worship site was destroyed, and the military took over the site, and eventually you have a brand new Buddhist vihara built on what everybody claims to be an archaeological site. So we have no way of now going and actually verifying to find out whether in fact it was Buddhist or whether it was some other significant site. And even if it was Buddhist, what is happening now is that the reality of Tamil Buddhists of the past being denied, and the assumption is that all Buddhists were Sinhalese, and the foundations are being made to colonize the area of over 300 acres with Buddhists, purely Buddhists, because quote unquote an archaeological Buddhist site cannot have other denominations living around it. The same is happening in Batiklo, in Mailattamadu and Madhavane. That is another case. It's a high profile case where land has been appropriated, grazing land for over 300,000 cattle has been appropriated by Polannarua people living in Polannarua who have come across the border as corn cultivators and have illegally squatted over vast tracts of grazing land that is fundamental for the economy of the locals in Batiklo. And the reason for that is a project of the Madru Right Bank Development Scheme, which is going to make that entire area arable, and as a result to maximize the benefit from that project purely to the Sinhalese people. Tamil areas are being colonized. So this is the reality of today, right? This is the reality in Sri Lanka, where the government says to the whole world that there is something called the 13th Amendment in the Constitution, which purportedly has not been quote unquote implemented. And when you ask them questions with regards to the legal position, where the Supreme Court has in over 30 judgments stated very clearly that there cannot be quote unquote implementation in the form of devolution, because in a unitary state no such devolution is permitted, and if at all it's only decentralization that can take place. You have the government insisting that it is the 13th Amendment that we must accept as a basis for the solution. And on the ground, whilst the government is trying to portray that they are committed to quote unquote devolution, even though constitutionally it is impossible, at least practically, the government could desist from these sort of acts, but they are not. So at the end of the day, legally, the Tamils are asked to give up their struggle of over 75 years of calling for the self-determination of the Tamil nation, whereby we can manage our own affairs of self-governance. We are asked to compromise on that position, to accept the 13th Amendment, when the government, even whilst they are asking us to compromise, are carrying out systematic, structurally dismantling the existence of the Tamil homeland and the Tamil national identity as a nation. So this is the reality that we are in. And it is for this reason that the Tamil National People's Front has been quite firm in our position. Where Sri Lanka is broke, Sri Lanka needs the help of certainly the international community, but also the Tamil diaspora in the form of investments. They are going around with a begging bowl, and this is an opportunity that if Sri Lanka is to be given the sort of financial assistance and help to ensure that it comes out of this crisis, then at the very least, one of the conditions that must be put forward is that Sri Lanka reforms itself so that it does not make the mistakes it made in the past. And that 75-year history of getting Sri Lanka to a broke situation that is here is because fundamentally Sri Lanka mismanaged its own relations with the populations within. Sri Lanka refused to accept the plurality of its population, the fact that there is a Sinhala nation and a Tamil nation within the Sri Lankan state, accept that these identities exist and secure these identities. Instead, they tried to completely override the Tamil nation by an overarching Sinhala Buddhist identity, which caused resistance that built up, and ultimately, in order to crush the resistance in the form of a genocide, the Sri Lankan state had to build up its military might, and in doing so ran into debt, became corrupt, and then once the war was concluded in 2009, the last 15 years just simply was those very same political actors who chose to carry out the genocide of the Tamils, looting the state to a point where they bankrupted their own people. So that is the 75-year history, means that fundamental change is the only way by which Sri Lanka will not fall into the same old routine in the future, even if the international community in fact helps. But that is not happening. Because unfortunately there is vested interests of different countries, and in particular, when you take the Western democracies, their biggest concern seems to be of late, particularly since the Rajapaksas came into power, of a slide towards Chinese influence within Sri Lanka. So the attitude seems to be of one of outbidding the other in trying to help Sri Lanka, help Sinhala Buddhist nationalism, help them to a point where they pick up the Sri Lankan economy and hope that Sri Lanka does not go into the the orbit of Chinese influence. And as a result, you have Western countries like the United States and India turning a blind eye to the realities of what the Tamils have to face, which is the complete opposite to the sort of commitments that the government makes at the international level. So that being the reality, the Tamil American community, the Ula Tamil American community is in a privileged place, because unlike any other, the Ulam Tamil American community is in the heart of the world's most powerful country. They have an impeccable reputation with regards to the state that we know, because when we meet with the American ambassadors, the embassy officials, with State Department officials, whenever they visit here, they make it quite clear how great the achievements of the Tamil American community is. And that means that your opinion counts. And being a community that has impeccable credentials with regards to their commitment to the United States, but also a community that has always wanted to help the Ulam Tamil nation back home in the darkest of times, you have the influence, we believe, and the credibility to weigh upon the United States to, when trying to help Sri Lanka, to make sure that conditionalities are in fact imposed, so that the Ulam Tamil nation and its identity is recognized, where we can have the right to self-determination, albeit within the Sri Lankan state, in the form of at least a federal arrangement like in the United States, and also that accountability for the genocide that took place right through up till 2009 is accounted for, and that accounting can only happen through an international criminal investigation. And it is for that reason that we ask that you make it a point to insist that any engagement with Sri Lanka has to be on the basis of at least these two conditions.